Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Los Alamos. I'm the Reverend John Cullinan, your minister here. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all people and gather together in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are sitting right now, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome into this community. I'd like to extend a special welcome this morning to any visitors or first-time or second-time guests we have with us here today. I would love to meet with you after the service and answer any questions you might have about what you've experienced here or about our congregational life in general. I'll grab a cup of coffee and stand next to the grand piano in our fellowship hall, and I promise I will actually make it to that piano this week. Everyone is invited to join us for coffee and conversation afterwards in the fellowship hall. And now, please take a moment to breathe. We'll be breathing a lot this morning. Feel yourself grounded where you sit and connected to the earth. Breathe in deeply. Breathe out. And let us begin. In this familiar place, listen to the sounds of breathing, creaking chairs, shuffling feet, clearing throats, and sighing all around. Know that each breath, movement, the glance meant for you or intercepted, holds a life within it. These are signs that we choose to be in this company, have things to say to each other. Things not yet said, but in each other's presence still, trembling behind our heart's doors. These doors closed but unlocked, each silent thing waiting on the threshold between unknowing and knowing, between being hidden and being known. Find the silence among these people and listen to it all. Breathing, sighs, movement, holding back. Hear the tears that have not yet reached their eyes. Perhaps they are your own. Hear also the laughter building deep where joy abides, despite everything. Listen, rejoice, and say Amen. Come. Let us worship together on this beautiful morning. Please rise in body or spirit and join in our opening hymn, number 298. Please remain standing and join in our affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each and with all. Please be seated. For all our joys, all our sorrows, whether we share them with one another today or we hold them close and quiet in our hearts, let us be with one another in a moment of silence. Please join with me now in a spirit of prayer and reflection. Eternal and beloved, gracious source of all life and all love, we come together this morning grateful for this time out of time which we have set apart so that we might become more fully present to ourselves, to each other, and to that which we call holy. May our joys be celebrated together, our wounds be healed together, our hearts be opened together. On the cusp of this season of renewal and birth, may we draw ever closer in this moment to the source of all life. May we be blessed by compassion as we face our frustration and pain. May we be blessed with the courage to help us live with the fear of losing and the sorrow of loss. Let us reach out this morning to all those among us who need to feel the warmth of love in their lives. Bless this community that shares so generously with their hands and with their hearts. Keep us ever mindful of the powerful possibilities of love as we walk through all the seasons of our lives. All this we pray in the names of those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Amen. Please remain seated and join in our meditation hymn, number 352. Just a brief story for you all this morning. It's one I have told before, but it's perfect for today. This comes from several different sources, and I can't seem to find exactly where it comes from. This particular version of the story comes from the collection Doorways to the Soul. Once, two friends were walking down the sidewalk on a busy street during rush hour. There were all sorts of noises in the city. Cars' horns honking, feet shuffling, people talking. And amid all the noise, one of the friends turned to the other and said, "I hear a cricket." "No way," her friend responded. "How could you hear a cricket with all of this noise? You must be imagining it. Besides, I've never seen a cricket in the city." "No, really, I do hear a cricket. I'll show you." She stopped for a moment, then led her friend across the street to a big cement planter with a tree in it. Pushing back the leaves, she found a little brown cricket. "Oh, that's amazing," said her friend. "You must have a superhuman hearing. What's your secret?" "My hearing is just the same as yours. There's no secret. Watch. I'll show you." She reached into her pocket, pulled out some loose change, and threw it on the sidewalk. Amid all of the noise of the city, everyone within 30 feet turned their head to see where the sound of the money was coming from. "See," she said, "it's all a matter of what you are listening for." I wonder if you all bear with me for just a moment and join me in a little experiment. I'm going to ask us to start off the sermon this morning by holding a minute of silence. Just a minute. Like we did in our pre-service meditation here, feel yourself grounded. Breathe slowly and deeply. Pay attention to your breathing. And we'll start now. What did you notice in that minute? What did you notice within your own self, within your own body? What did you notice happening around you or among you, sitting so close to friends and neighbors here? What did you notice as being part of the all that is? How comfortable were you with that silence? Any discomfort? Any awkwardness? A little bit? Yeah. It's okay to admit it. You're not alone. Silence can be disturbing. Silence often leads to a sense of discomfort. We don't always admit it. Actors are very uncomfortable with silence. They don't like to be in the quiet on stage as they perform, because quiet makes them worry the audience might think they've forgotten their lines, that they're unskillful, that they don't know what they're doing. And interestingly, what happens on stage, at least, is the adrenaline of performance pumps up our system to a point where our heart starts to beat a little faster. And when our hearts start to beat a little faster, our internal sense of time starts to shift a bit. And so all of a sudden, a minute stretches. If we're worried about what we're encountering in that minute of quiet, that minute stretches. That time dilation makes 10 seconds feel like 30. We might wonder what we're doing with ourselves. Our breathing, our heart rate, all of that together, those are all autonomic functions of the body. We run on autopilot with a lot of our basic functions. And when we let ourselves run on autopilot like that, especially in moments that are fraught or stressful, and all of that sense of time gets dilated, the thing I try to work with actors on when I'm directing is to just breathe. Just take a moment and breathe deep and get your focus back from out there, because the audience doesn't care. Back into your own body, back into your own self. Now, I do this with actors. I struggle with it for my own self. I'm a person who lives too much in his own head. The wheels are always turning. I am always watching them turn, interested to see where they go. And very often, an hour can pass by, and I've been lost in thought and contemplation the whole time. And that's not bad in and of itself. I mean, a little bit of quiet time and a little bit of contemplation time is good, but very often it's unfocused. It devolves into what we call the monkey mind. Every little thought gets its own moment in your head, and you focus on each one of them, sometimes to your detriment, sometimes to your health. But I get so much in my own head in these moments, I often forget I have a body. I have days where I forget to eat lunch until about 2, 3 o'clock because I've just been tooling around on whatever's going in my head and putting all the pieces together, not really paying attention to now and what my body needs. So thankfully, I have this. I was gifted this last year, this Apple Watch, and Apple has this whole program about mindfulness they're pushing now, which consists of my watch tapping my wrist twice a day, once in the morning, once at night, and saying, hey, take a moment to breathe. And I say, I don't have time for that now, and I ignore it, which is exactly why I keep this app active on my watch, because I need to be reminded to breathe. It's like that do it twice if you don't think you have time thing I was talking about last week with just paying attention, having a practice. So when it catches me at a point where I'm just sitting contemplating, I'm not in the middle of a task for work or a phone call with someone or a meeting I'm in the middle of, I'll stop and I'll hit the button and it'll tell me, okay, focus on your breathing. We are going to breathe deep for just a minute. And it actually pulses and counts out the pace at which I breathe. And here's the interesting thing. When I do that, when I take the time to stop and do that, that automated system of my breathing comes under my control for a moment. It turns from something automatic to something regulated, something I am observing as it happens. I am breath all of a sudden, and the breath is me, and it's all connected into one, and I find myself, strangely enough, living in the here and now, where just a minute ago I was living off over in the future, somewhere over here, or somewhere off in the past over here. I am nowhere but here now. Like breathing through that uncomfortable silence. I come back into the moment, and I find that I've had a shift in my point of view about myself and about the world. I've stopped being just a creature of mind in that moment, and I've stepped a little more into that sense of my whole self, just in that minute, body and mind and spirit and emotion, all of it together. Everything that makes me me. All my emotions, all of my thoughts. So let me take you back to our minute, just a minute ago, or two. If you can remember what you were experiencing in that moment, what did you notice? Did you get a sense of your point of view about the morning shifting? Did you notice you were gaining a different perspective on your sense of self in that minute? And if you were feeling some discomfort in the silence and the length of it, did you have a chance to check in and ask yourself, what's the source of the discomfort for me? Why am I feeling what I am feeling right here, right now, in this moment? Is it something within myself? Is it something in my connections to others? Is my sense of helplessness in the face of the entire cosmos? What did you notice? Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is pretty much the founder of the mindfulness movement here in the United States, at least, who runs the Center for Mindfulness out of, I believe, Mass General Hospital in Boston, has my favorite definition for what mindfulness means. I love the first half, especially paying attention on purpose to the present moment. There's a lot packed in there. Paying attention to my breath for just a minute, to how I am breathing, to how I am bringing it under my control, zeroes everything down into where I am in that present moment. And I'm doing it on purpose, because otherwise I'm living over here somewhere, or I'm living over there somewhere. It takes an intention to bring your focus fully in, bring my senses into the here and now and nowhere else, and force that perspective change, that shift to my point of view. And why do I do that? Why is it important? Because to come into the here and now, to pay attention on purpose to the present moment, opens us up to that point of view shift, that sense of whole self that we often lose sight of, and it brings us into awareness of the depth and the breadth of all our connections, of our interdependence, of that interdependent web that we are all a part of, that we profess as Unitarian Universalists. Zinn talks about interdependence as well, but he talks about it in a sense of two realizations, and I kind of love this. It's our connections, and then the sense of reciprocity that we gain because we realize we are connected to things. What the threads need from us, what we need from the threads, it's all a feedback. It's not just a static web. And in paying attention on purpose to the present moment, we become open to the perspective of as much of that connection and as much of that sense of reciprocity to all that is that our human minds can grasp onto in the moment. And that's the moment when I might stop and ask myself, why am I doing this on purpose again? This is a lot. That is a lot of connection. That is a lot of reciprocity. There is a lot being expected of me here. And wow, yeah, maybe I'm just going to step away from the present moment for a little while longer. But we can't. Zinn talks about trying to escape much the same way that Thomas Merton tries to talk about escape. As I mentioned in last week's sermon, Merton realized he couldn't actually leave the world by becoming a monk because the world was all there is and there was nothing to actually run away to. And Zinn, in much the same sense, says we can try to avoid stepping into that sense of the here and now, but really the here and now is all we've got. It's this moment, and this moment, and this moment, and this moment. So I'm staying in the moment, but that sense of interdependence opens me up to the everything of the all that is and the too muchness of it all and my own place in the too muchness of it all. And the all that is includes all of my human relationships and our human relationships and all of the good and all of the ill that comes from how we relate or do not relate to one another, and my part in trying to feed into it or correct it. And it opens me up to my connections to the environment around us and my place in trying to do what I can for what is happening in the environment around me, and it keeps me connected to the entire cosmos of the all that is and my tiny place in it, and what does my life mean in the face of it all. And it all starts to get too much. It's like a fire hose of awareness blasted right at you as you sit here in the present moment, and I start to feel a flight or flight response at that point. I am in a total panic, and how do I handle it? What did I do? So John just breathed for a moment. No, that's how I got here in the first place. Why would I stop and do that? Which brings me to Zinn's second half of his definition for mindfulness. Paying attention on purpose to the present moment with curiosity and compassion for things as they are. Things as they are. No judgment in that moment. Not even the judgment of too much. Just an openness to things that exist as they are. Not as problems to be solved, not as obstacles to be removed, not as forces that are either in our control or out of our control, just being. My being and all the being. With curiosity and compassion, without that judgment. To look at a thing as it is, a force, a moment, a person, an idea, and acknowledge that I'm having some sort of response to it. I felt that way. Why is that? What is this strange feeling in this particular thread of relationship all about? What is my part in that thread of relationship? What's my place in this story that's unfolding across it? Do I have a role in it? Am I putting myself too much into this relationship and it's actually not as much about me as I think it is? And whether or not I come to any kind of understanding in my curiosity, sitting in a place where I can say, I don't understand, but whether or not I understand, I accept and I empathize with whatever's going on, with whoever or whatever is on the other end of that thread. There's a reason I open prayers every week with a call to celebrate our joys together, heal our wounds together, open our hearts together, because it gets us out of ourselves. It tries to push us into that place of stepping back from judgment and just approaching everyone with a sense of compassion. This curiosity and compassion together is what I call noticing. You may have noticed that when we finished our minute of silence, I asked you, what did you notice? Not see, not hear, not observe, not smell, not taste, but notice. Noticing to me is different from merely observing. Because contained in that idea of observing is the sense of looking at something with complete neutrality, without an agenda, with some detachment from it. Whether or not we are actually capable of doing that, and most of the time I would say we are not. Observation has the sense of object and subject in relationship. But when we're talking about the combination of curiosity and compassion in noticing, we're underlining the on-purpose part of that definition of mindfulness, of paying attention. Because in noticing, in being an active participant in observing the relationship, we are choosing amongst the threads. We actually have that in our power as we are feeling the everything of everything in that open moment of here and now. We get to follow the curious thread. Why this? Let's take a look at that more. What am I feeling over here? Maybe we need to tease that out a bit, untangle it a bit more. Noticing gets rid of the idea that we're neutral in any of our observations, that we're doing it on purpose, and we are actually bringing the lens of our whole self to the process. Body, mind, spirit, emotion, everything about us is invested in choosing that thread and seeking to understand that relationship. And it's the noticing that I think saves us from that instinct to retreat from the too muchness of all that is. And we need that saving from time to time because we cannot escape from all that is, and we cannot escape from the here and now. It's everything and all that we've got, this moment and this moment and this moment. If we try to retreat, we're attempting the impossible, and we're just putting more stress on ourselves in the process, and the more we're going to need to just stop and breathe for a minute. Noticing moves us from the sense of being overwhelmed to the act of being interested in what's going on here, in what's going on here, in what's going on here. It gets us to focus on what is possible. Noticing breaks apart what seems insurmountable into manageable and relatable parts. At which point we can, as I implore you often, to do what you can, where you can, to act within the spheres in which you actually have agency. Because that's the solution to it all. Our sense of interdependence, when we become aware of us, opens up to the vastness of everything. And within all that is, there is much good, but our sense of compassion will also lead us to follow the threads where there is woundedness and problems to be solved and relationships to be healed. And that's where we can start to feel overwhelmed by it all, because there is so much to heal. And we feel overwhelmed because we know we cannot fix it or solve it all. We can't fix everything. This is as much a sermon for me as it is for any of you, just so you know. Can't fix everything. But also, no one of us is on the hook to do that anyway. Nobody put us into the world and said, it's up to you, get it all done. Make the world perfect. Can't do it. Might as well retreat from here and now at that point. Act within the spheres in which you have agency. Do what you can, where you can. And in order to do that, we need to be here now. We need to pay attention on purpose. We need to focus on the moment, because the moment is all we have, so that we can notice our place in the web. Notice our agency in the moment, with curiosity and without judgment. So let me ask you again. Let's try one more minute of silence, paying attention to breath and noticing. What did you notice? What did you notice happening within yourself? What was happening to your point of view on the world? What did you notice about the threads connecting you to others and to all that is? Which threads in the web got your attention, made you curious, felt like something you wanted to grab onto and follow just a little more? What threads attracted your compassion? Your need to just be with a moment, with a thread, with someone. This is really the heart of the work we do. This is really where it all starts. And so that's my prayer, that we continue to actively, on purpose, in the moment, find our place in this thread, in this moment, and this moment, and this moment. May it be so. It is time to hand over some of the announcements for the coming week, because there's many moments coming up we should be paying attention to on purpose. First up, a reminder that our pledge season has opened. The electronic packets came out last week, and you can now fill out the form online if you choose to do so. The mailed packets also went out this week, and if you haven't received yours yet, I assume you're going to receive it in the next day or two. Please take a look over all those materials on what we're planning for next year and how we survived the last few years, and think about your gift for this year. If you have not given before and would like to make a gift to the church, we do have some packets available today as well that you can pick up. Mike McNaughton has them up at the welcome table for you to check out as well. And we're hoping we can get everybody's responses in by the 24th of April so that we can finalize our budget before we have our annual meeting on the 15th of May. Next week is Easter, and next week is our annual Easter egg hunt with the kids. That's going to start at 11:45, right after the service. Talk to Tina DeYoe, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education, right over there for more details on what's happening and how to take part. And now I'd like to invite Melissa Bartlett, our Chair of the Caring Committee, to say a few words about what's going on there.
All right, now, there we go. Okay. So I'm Melissa Bartlett. I'm the chairperson of the Caring Network. And to me, the Caring Network is really kind of like the heart of the church. It's where we reach out to other people in our community. So I've really enjoyed working with people, getting to know this community a little bit better. I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. We visit people who are homebound. We arrange for meal trains. We arrange for rides. We help people in the community in a whole number of ways. During the pandemic, we called every single household on the church membership list to see if there were any needs that were not being met. Mostly we do things that I think a neighbor would do. Something you could ask your neighbor to help you with is kind of what we would ask the Caring Network to do. It's certainly not limited to the elderly. We had a teenager, too young to drive, who called us saying that her mother was ill with her second COVID shot and couldn't get out of bed, and they didn't have any food. And so we made a run to the grocery store and picked up a few supplies for them. Anyway, the thing about the Caring Network is that it's only a few people and we can't do all of it ourselves. And what we're trying to do now is come up with some volunteers. And I will have a little form to fill out over in the fellowship hall after the service is over. We would like to get enough of a list of people who are willing to do one thing or another. You might be willing to give a ride to somebody, you might be willing to do a visit or a phone call, make a meal, maybe do some small household chore. And if we have that list, and I'm trying to get enough people so that everyone can have the opportunity to help us, and everyone can have the opportunity, if asked, to say, no, I can't do it this week. And we'll just go on to the next set of people. And if we have a big enough group, that works really well. So I'm hoping that people will be willing to volunteer some small amount of time sometime during the next year. And I will have forms out there after the service. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, as we prepare to return to our everyday lives, it is time to give something of the gifts of this community back to the larger community we are part of. It is time for our offering. During the month of April, 100% of all cash and undesignated funds we receive will be given to the Pacific Western region of the Unitarian Universalist Association in support of their summer camps for middle schoolers and high schoolers during the summer. The offering will now be accepted. May what you give bring you joy and a deeper relationship with this community. Friends, may life bless us and keep us. May the light of life shine upon us and out from within us and be gracious to us and bring us peace. For this is the day. This is the one wild and precious life we have all been given. So let us all find a way to rejoice and be glad in it. Go in peace.